Hello, everybody. Let's get it shared out. Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome to After the Game with Todd Leary, of course, coming to you live from Yogi's. Getting it shared out here. We'll get started. All right. Are we on? Yeah, we're out there. Hey, little Jake. Jake, you can get it shared. That helps, too. Hope everybody's having an okay Saturday. We're going to get everything shared out here to get started and just very, very quickly. We'll make this as quickly.
Like Ohio State did.
Ohio State
made it a quick one. It was over pretty early. Over pretty early.
How's your day going, Todd Leary?
Well, my day, these would be better if when they play like this, if it was at night. Because now the whole rest of my day just kind of has a sour taste to it. But they, I feel better than I did after Penn State. I actually think they learned some things from today. And I mean the coaching staff. I think that lineup-wise, we'll talk about it in a few minutes, I'm sure. But lineup-wise, I think we'll see some differences coming up.
Well, and what we haven't seen different was play by Indiana. Very, very similar today is what we saw against Penn State.
Yeah, I mean, just I don't know how to say it. I don't know how to express it other than sense of urgency. And
lack thereof.
That's what I mean. They don't play with any sense of urgency whatsoever. And I know I was talking to you about it throughout the game, but we play like a bunch of cool guys. Like we are.
And you've used that term for a few games now. Explain to people exactly what you mean. I know what you mean, and I think most people understand what you mean. But
yeah, I mean we play at a comfortable pace. And that's our guys. It's not that they don't care. It's not that they're not trying hard. To me, it's the type of player that you are. And you have, when you finish a game, think back to the days of Tom Coverdale and Michael Lewis. And guys like that, think back to what they looked like when they finished a game. I mean, they were exhausted, and they were tired. Like they were sweating hard, and they were just worn out. And that's the way you should be after a game. And honestly, I feel like our guys are load managing themselves. We don't ever seem like we're playing at a crazy high pace. And I don't mean going fast up and down the floor. I mean you can play very aggressively in the half court defense. And wear yourself out. And I don't feel like Indiana ever does that.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to After the Game with Todd Leary, of course, coming to you live from Yogi's here in Bloomington, brought to you by Best Beer Incorporated, Bloomington, and Henry Nethery, as well as our good friend. And after the game, but today was a game. There wasn't a lot of excitement. There wasn't. If this had been if I was at. The crowd was never able to get into it where we were. Indiana never seemed like they got into it, and it's a road game, so you don't expect the best, but you still expect the competitive nature. I don't know if we've seen that these last couple of games. And that's a cause for concern, I think.
Yeah, I mean after Penn State, I mean I think today, what would we have been okay with today's outcome? I mean, they needed a good effort. They needed to play well. They needed to learn some things about themselves. They needed to do some things different. I can't really say. I thought maybe they tried to drive the ball to the basket a little bit more. We saw Jerome Hunter trying to at least drive and get into the lane. We saw Justin Smith doing that a little bit. I think maybe that was more of a concentrated effort to do that, but still it's not enough. I mean, they've got to continue. They've got to do that repeatedly until it becomes comfortable and it becomes the norm because – they had a really, really good opportunity going into this week, and with two road games, and they caught Penn State on a night when they very easily should have beat Penn State. Penn State did not play very well, and Indiana still got beat. And then tonight, I mean, this was a game. If Indiana plays really well, they win this game today. I mean, Ohio State played all right, but they never. I don't think they ever really felt too challenged by Indiana, and it's just it's lackluster performance. I'm tired of describing it like that.
To me, Indiana was very, very consistently lackluster.
Yeah.
They shot the ball okay. If you look at from a percentage standpoint, they were 19 to 42 overall for 45%. Normally, you'll take that. It's not, it's not terribly great, but you'll take that. They were 11 of 22 in the second half. But on the other side of the ledger, Ohio State, man, they get 26 of 56. They shoot 14 more times than Indiana. There's a big difference right there. Rebounding, Ohio State out-rebounds the Hoosiers today, something that they've really hung their hat on, 31 to 24. But the biggest difference came on the offensive end. 11 to 4 was the difference in offensive rebounds. A lot of second-chance opportunities for Ohio State. Very, very few for the Hoosiers.
Well, and so Indiana, in the last two ball games, I remember because I've given the stats specifically, and so Indiana shot the ball 57 times in the last two games. They were 29 of 57 2 games ago, and they were 19 of 57 in the last ball game against Penn State. And so 57 shots is the number I want you to think about, because today Indiana only got up 42 shots. That's 15 less opportunities. Not to mention the fact, now they made the same amount tonight. They made 19 of the same. They shot 57 times in the last game. They made 19 of them. Well, today they made 19 again, but they only shot 42 times. And the 19 is not the number we need to worry about. It's the number of shot attempts that you can get. And this is a game. This is a game. I even when it was a 10-point game in the second half, did you ever really feel like Indiana had a chance?
There was never a run. There was never.
No.
This team is having runs.
This team is not good enough to come back from behind. They don't shoot the ball well. I shouldn't say good enough. They don't shoot the ball well enough to come back from behind. They're not built as that kind of team. So they can't put themselves in that kind of position. Like they're not, if they do it, they're not capable of repeatedly doing it. So once they got down by 10, I don't really feel like I don't think Ohio State, which they changed defenses a lot, I don't think they even tried anything different today. I think they kind of stuck to their same defensive plan throughout the game. I think they stopped double teaming. They saw that wasn't going to work. They were double teaming the post, and Indiana scored a couple easy baskets off of that, and I think they realized at that point, well, heck, they're having more trouble scoring one-on-one than they are when we double team. So just so many different things. This is a game they lost by 9 points. It was never that. I mean, after the first 6 minutes of the game, it was never that close.
Between Justin Smith, Trace Jackson-Davis, and Joey Brunk, your three big guys down low, you had a grand total of 4 field goals.
Yeah, and like I saw the stat late in the first half of Trace Jackson-Davis had 0 field goal attempts. He hadn't even taken a shot yet. And that's not the guard's fault. At some point, Trace Jackson-Davis has to demand the ball and go make a play. But, they threw it to him to start the game out a couple of times, and he traveled with it right away. He just, when Indiana's – I know we want to play through the inside, but when everybody knows that, when 15,000 people in the stands and all 10 players on the court and both coaching staffs know that's what you're trying to do, it's not that difficult to take it away, to be honest with you. And Indiana's got to have some backup plan that they go to and start off shooting 12-foot jump shots rather than throwing it to Joey. I mean, I feel bad for Joey Brunk. Now, I think the lineup that Indiana played with tonight that didn't have Joey Brunk in it is the best lineup that they have out on the floor. I think Joey Brunk will be a great backup. I think that's the role he would be his best at. I think Indiana would be best using him in that role, playing with a faster team, a smaller team.
You talked about that you'd like to see them go with a little quicker team, a more up-tempo team, faster, more athletic, and they have those guys to do that, but the lineups have not really.
Yeah, it's been. I mean, the staple lineup has always included Trace Jackson-Davis and Joey Brunk, and when you've got that, I don't know whether you like that lineup or not. There's no way you can argue with the fact of that's a much slower lineup than if you put another guard in there or even Jerome Hunter or somebody else. When you have Joey Brunk and Deron Davis in the ballgame, no matter when it is, it's going to slow you down, no doubt about it. Those guys are not athletic enough to run up and down the court. And this Indiana team, I feel like, is going to be much better when they play faster, when they get up. They look at how they struggle to get shots offensively in the half-court offense. And when you're slowing it down to allow these guys to come down and get down the floor and get set up in the half-court offense, that's not when you're at your best. I mean, they're at their best when they get shots, the first 15 seconds of the shot clock.
this is something that actually it was brought up earlier, but oh man, I lost it. It went away. I hate when
it resets on its own.
Resets on its own. But it was Jennifer that talked about, because I brought this up. You hear this so much. Oh, wait till Crean's players are all gone. Archie has all of his own players. You know, I know that there's something to that, but at the end of the day, you got to get the guys to play. I don't care who the hell recruits.
Agree.
They got to play on this team now because this is when they're playing.
Agree with you. I mean, I'm with that 100%. And these guys, you know, it's not like Indiana has a bunch of stiffs. I mean, they've got guys that can play. I think that there's probably an art and a trick to getting them to play hard and play well. And I would not necessarily say that they always play as hard as I would like to see them play. But you know, they're good enough to be able to play. Archie Miller's in charge of the lineup, and I think it's time for a lineup change. I mean, they've got to create what's IU's identity right now. I mean, offensively, they pound the ball into, try to throw the ball inside.
They had an identity. They were gearing towards an identity. And now, to me, they've kind of just wandered back out into the lost zone.
Early and I agree with you. I don't think it's not very hard for teams to adjust to the idea that you're going to throw the ball inside all the time. And so to start the game, they threw the ball inside. Joey Brunk touched the ball a bunch. Trace Jackson Davis touched the ball in the with his back to the basket quite a bit. And teams have adjusted to it. Sometimes they're double teaming, sometimes they're not. I think they're realizing they don't need to double team. And so it's time to make a change to that. It's time to try something different and try a lineup that gets up and down the court a little bit faster. And I'm not picking on them because I think there's a major role Joey Brunk can play on this team. But I don't think it's playing 30 minutes a game and having a lineup on the floor where we can't fly up and down the court.
Mark asked the question, and this is something maybe as a former player, maybe you can answer it, and maybe you can't, because it's the $64,000 question. Why, and it's not just Indiana, but we're talking about Indiana, why do the Hoosiers play so well at home, and then you go on the road, and it looks like they're a JV team?
Yeah, well, I mean, look already today, we're still early in the game, in the day on Saturday, and 2 top 10 teams in the country have lost at home already. Michigan State is on the road right now, playing Wisconsin team that's not been playing very well, and they're getting drilled. So home teams, you know, I think early on it was kind of set up to where it looked like it was going to be crazy difficult to win on the road. Look, if you play well, Indiana has had plenty of opportunities. It's not been the road. They didn't lose at Penn State because it was on the road. They lost at Penn State because they played bad. They didn't lose today because the crowd was crazy or the basket was a different height or anything different. They just didn't play well. And it's really that simple to me. Like, these guys have got to get it into their head of – here's the thing, though. Indiana is not a great shooting team. They struggle to score the basketball. I don't care if that's home or away. That cost them against Maryland. It's cost them in these last 2 road games. It's not a home or away thing for me for Indiana. It's just scoring the basketball thing.
And then Bill asked, and it's a great point, no, why 0 adjustments in the second half? We saw a lot of the same.
You know, but here's an adjustment. Like, I would have liked to see them start the second half this way, but they played with that lineup quite a bit. I think there was an adjustment made in the second half to where they put Joey Brunk on the bench, and they played with a smaller lineup. And Justin Smith guarded a big guy, did a decent job. He got called for a foul in there, banging with Caleb Wesson, but you know, they played with a little different lineup. I think there was an adjustment. I think they were trying to make some changes. And honestly, I think as long as Archie Miller left that lineup on the floor, I think he actually liked some of the stuff he saw out of the new lineup.
And now we've talked about Indiana having the opportunity when they went on this 2-game road stretch. They had an opportunity to steal a road win, and this was a great one today. You didn't have DJ Carton in the lineup for Ohio State. Did not affect them at all. They went right at Indiana, and Indiana didn't have an answer for them. So now Indiana's got to come back home, and the pressure's on Indiana. They have to win these next 2 home games, in my mind.
Well, Indiana,
they're under 500 right now.
Indiana had played themselves solidly into the NCAA tournament. I mean, probably right before the Maryland game, up as high as maybe a 6 seed. After the Maryland loss, maybe down to a 7 seed. Right now, they put themselves in a position. They're still in the tournament based on right now, but they're in a position to where you lose one of these 2 home games in the next week, and you're on the bubble. And I firmly believe that's the case.
Yeah, Daniel says, not upset with the shooting percentage, but they had 29 more shots than us.
They had 14. They had 14 more shots.
Yes, 14 more.
They had 14 more shots than us.
What part of that was turnovers? part of that is not taking care of the ball, some steals on Ohio State, and then, of course, the offensive rebounding edge. I think you can put all of that right there is where the advantage comes from.
Okay, so Indiana ended the game with 59 points, but they had 22 at halftime, and we all know they hit a three at the end, at the buzzer in the first half, or they would have ended with 19. It was the pace of play. It is trying to walk the ball down the floor and let Joey Brunt get down the court and throw it inside, and everybody stands there and looks at him while he bangs it inside and does a shot fake and misses the shot. And it's the pace of play. That's what Indiana has got to get up and down the court. The missed shots. What did I tell you? As soon as Jerome Hunter made a move where he went inside the lane, he dribbled all the way in the lane, made a little move and missed it. When Justin Smith does that, misses it, we don't care. We'll take as many of those as we can get. I want him to do that in the first 12 seconds of the shot clock, as opposed to waiting until you have to drive it in there. Like, they can go do that early, but you can't do that when you've got a big guy that you're waiting on to lumber down the court, get all the way down there into the post so you can throw in the ball. Once you do that, you're going to use up too much time. That's why there's only 42 shots in this game.
There's definitely no leadership on this team. They look like they didn't know where to turn at times. It's like, who is the guy that's going to lead us? Who is going to light that fire? And he's not out there.
We've been saying this for a couple of weeks. This is not a win or loss. This is not a based on the last two games situation. I mean, Trace Jackson Davis, I swear, if body language can tell you anything, like, he is screaming, somebody lead us to where we need to get to. Like, somebody tell me what to do. Tell me where to be. I'll do it. I think we have guys who are very willing to be coached and be coachable. Not all, but I think some of the guys are very much that way. And I think that all it would take is one of these guards to step up, whether it's Al Durham or Finney. I really feel like they're the only two ones probably capable of doing it. Given their personalities, not based on skill level, but just given their personalities, I think anyone on this team would gladly follow behind the lead of one of those two guys if they would just step forward and do it.
Jared says, I love the Hoosiers, but this is getting old. The guys don't look like they enjoyed themselves out there. I had a bad feeling after the Maryland loss. At the end, it could domino into multiple losses. Very possible. Denny says, it didn't look like TJD was fighting to get open. We talked about that. He didn't have many shots, but you put that on Trace Jackson Davis.
That's his fault. There was not, especially because he touched it a couple of times to start the game. You got to travel right off the bat. I think he got another one fairly quickly on after that. But that's one of those things. He needs to be a guy that steps out on his own and gets the ball if he has to and just waves everybody out of the way. I think everybody on the team is waiting for someone to step forward and do that. And I think Trace Jackson Davis would feel like he's being selfish or I don't think it's just his nature to come out and be that way about it. And they need somebody to become more selfish and start taking control.
Yeah, James says effort attitude is a joke. Where's the players' development? Some players are about themselves, then the team. Devontae makes a three and holds follow through like he did something. He needs to look at the scoreboard. I'm not going to point out a particular player. We see this a lot with guys. They'll be behind 12 points, and they're acting like,
right.
Yeah, we got something going on.
They do one thing.
Flexing and this. I'm like, dude, you're down 12.
Yeah,
get in the game.
I know. It's all. And you know what? That's kind of that cool guy mentality I was talking about. Like, they're not. Whenever you've got time, this is being the Coach Knight side of it. When you've got time or you get your mind thinking about something like that, like flexing or pointing at your muscles or doing something that's not a part of the game, your mind is not on what it is you need to be focused on. And that is, that's just what was unacceptable. Those are the things that we just were not allowed to do. And I really feel like this team needs to get to that point where they're not worried about all the exterior stuff going on or what they look like or what the score is or anything like that, and they just get to the point where they know they've got a goal they're trying to accomplish, and everything for that 40 minutes is designed around trying to do that.
Mark Helmerdog says, when they stink, they're very good at stinking it up bad. He ain't lying.
He's not.
That's something they're good at.
These two games this week are a setback, to be honest with you. I mean, they're not. There's no reason for me to sit here and try to act like it's not disappointing because
how many bunnies did they miss?
A lot in the last couple of games. They've missed a lot. Rob Finney missed several. They missed a bunch in the Maryland game at home. But honestly, like, in all reality, we'll live with that. We'll take that as long as they're getting themselves in there and getting those shots. We'll take them.
We've talked about the lineups and rotations a lot this season. Billy asks, are they still substituting too much, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, Demezi didn't play at all today. They still obviously didn't have Race Thompson available to play. Apparently, he didn't get in the game. I didn't think they substituted too much today. I still think there's some guys that are coming in, like Deron Davis's minutes. He plays 9 minutes when he came in the game. You know, Armand Franklin played 8 minutes. I mean, those are, in my mind, those are wasted minutes. You're not accomplishing anything when you put those guys in the game right now. Armand Franklin is completely – he's a good player. Don't get me wrong. I like Armand Franklin. I think eventually he will be a good player for Indiana. But right now his time on the floor is meaningless.
I think you've got to find there's a fine line between getting that experience that they need for next season, which you have to get it to them. But there's a fine line when that starts affecting the here and the now.
Yeah.
And I think we're seeing that.
Yeah. I mean, you know, there's I think that there is a situation with the guys mentally right now where they've got to be working towards something, whether that's identifying an identity and whether that's the identity is getting up and down the floor and playing at a fast pace and being aggressive defensively. I mean, you know, I said it on the show yesterday that without DJ Carton in this game, when Ohio State was playing better real early in the season, I thought C.J. Walker was a much bigger part of their team than he had been recently. And today he had 14 points on 5 of 9 shooting, but it seemed like he was a bigger factor than that. He made some big shots at big times. He had the ball in his hand and got some key assists. I think he had 4 assists in this game. So he took advantage of Indiana. In Assembly Hall, and I keep him in mind because he's from Indianapolis and he came back here, but I really think that C.J. Walker's affected today's game in a really, you know, positive way for Ohio State, negative for Indiana, because he kind of controlled the pace of play. They played fast when he wanted to go. They slowed it down. They shot threes when he wanted them to, and Indiana needs a player like that to step forward and have that kind of game. 14 points on 5 of 9 shooting, 2 for 2 from the free throw line. He had 4 assists. We want our guards to have lines like that and be as big a factor in the game as what C.J. Walker was.
Yeah, and Tim brings up something that Archie talked about this week, is that Indiana's too soft around the rim.
Yeah.
And they were that way again today. We talked about the misses around the rim. They also out-rebounded, something that they've made their bread and butter on this year. And, man, they get killed on the offensive end as well.
Every rebound for Indiana seemed difficult. You know, every time they ended up coming up with the rebound, it seemed like a battle. And it shouldn't be that way. If you block out and you keep your man behind you, there's going to be the occasional rebound that goes super long and goes over your head. But for the most part, it's not going to. And you're going to come up with most of those rebounds. Ohio State looked like one of the most athletic teams in the world today because Kyle Young was running all over the place, grabbing rebounds, stealing the ball. Lydell was grabbing the rebound, tipping the ball all over the place. Caleb Wesson was just a monster on the boards. But a lot of it wasn't necessarily the fact that those guys are super athletic or playing that hard. It was Indiana not blocking out.
And we've talked about Indiana having the toughest remaining schedule in the country, as many teams will have in the Big Ten. But we're talking about Indiana, and they've got it. And with these losses, this schedule's not getting easier. I think someone just mentioned that on here.
Yeah, I mean,
Tom, I think, tough 9 games coming up.
Sure.
I mean, you've got your next game is not for a week. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, they don't play till next Saturday.
That's unbelievable. Do they need this time off?
No,
so
absolutely
this is the worst
not.
thing that can happen.
Yeah, we've talked about it a couple of times this year. How
because we've had like 3 of these situations.
They have. In December, they had this 2 weeks in a row. They had the full week off. And truly, they only play 2 more games, I think, between now and the 15th of February. I think there was only 3 games over like a 16-day stretch starting today. And so this team right now, I mean, they need experience out on the court. Like they've got Purdue and Iowa coming in. Well, you know, Purdue on the road has not played well, so you would hope that's a game they're going to win. But it's a hope, you know. I mean, they're still going to have to play well, and then they don't play again till the Thursday, till the Thursday after that.
And a tough Iowa
team. And you're playing an Iowa team and I'll tell you this right now, Iowa, when they shoot the ball well, which you know you don't want your team based around that, but that's what they are. And when they shoot it well, they are the best team in the Big Ten.
Well,
no question about
and
it.
we saw them go to where was it Wisconsin? They just lost by 10.
Maryland.
Maryland. But they
shot the ball horribly. And they shot the ball horribly.
But they fought and fought and fought.
They've got the best scoring big guy in the Big Ten, and they can shoot the ball really well. Now, when they don't shoot the ball well, if they come to Assembly Hall and don't shoot well, Indiana should win by 15. Okay, but that Iowa team, you're just talking about the next 2 games Indiana has. You've got Purdue coming in. That's a rivalry game. You know that can go any way. Purdue's good defensively. And then you've got Iowa, who can beat anyone in the country because they can shoot the ball well. So it's kind of back against the wall kind of a situation right now. And, hey, as an Indiana fan, I think we're all a little bit scared of what happened last year, having all the losses in a row. And you know, the team, I don't want to say they imploded. I think they just could never find their identity. They could never have something to build on. And it seems similar. Like right now, I don't know what we have to build on. I don't have that feeling. I did after Maryland. After the Maryland game, I had that feeling.
Eric
1 week later, I don't.
The offense seems predictable. The defenses are just
the offense is incredibly predictable.
Shoot from outside. Trace is always double teamed. What do they got? They've got to change something now.
It's got to be driving the ball to that mid-range area, to the 12 to 17 foot range, and pulling up and hitting shots. And Indiana has a bunch of guys on the floor who are capable of doing that.
What is the difficulty in getting that accomplished?
Having the mindset to do it. You know, like I think there was a 3-game stretch, and you'll remember this. There was a 3-game stretch when we really thought that Justin Smith had a mindset going into the game that he was going to take the ball to the basket, because there were several games in a row, like he was ultra aggressive at getting into the lane. He even missed some of the shots, but nobody cares. Like, he's just so aggressive at driving the ball in, and that was his mindset. I thought maybe tonight they did a little bit more of that. I think Jerome Hunter tried to. I think Justin Smith tried to a little bit. But when they drive it on, like I can specifically remember 2 examples. Devontae Green drove the ball into the middle of the lane and had a little 8-foot runner in the middle of the lane, which is a shot. It's a difficult shot, but he's great at it. It's one of his best shots that he can make. And he tries to throw a pass that goes straight out of bounds instead of shooting a wide-open little 8-foot jumper. In the second half, Al Durham did the exact same thing. Drove to the middle of the lane and tried to throw a pass to Trace Jackson-Davis when there's no need for it. He was 6 feet from the basket. And Indiana has gotten away from the idea of that mid-range. And when I say mid-range, I'm not talking about 19-foot jumpers anymore. I'm talking about 8-foot jumpers. 8-foot jumper. Yeah, anything inside the lane there. If Indiana, you know where the dotted line comes out, anything outside of that dotted line, just below the free throw line, anything in that area right there is a great shot. You should try to get as many of those as you can.
They seem like they were heading in that direction these last few games. Got really away. They got away from everything today. They didn't seem to really do anything.
They didn't seem to be an intentional idea or game plan of what it was they were trying to accomplish.
No concerted effort of what you're trying to
accomplish. I'm sure there was one. That just tells you how bad they were at executing it, because we can't even identify what it was.
Mark says all teams are struggling on the road, just got to protect Assembly Hall, which they haven't done here of late, and hope for a couple of road wins. Well, that's not looking.
Hope. That's the thing, though. I'm tired of hoping. I'm tired of hoping. I'm tired of hoping for those road wins. I want to go win one for sure.
We will the way we are playing. Still beating. They won't make the tournament, but I hope I'm wrong. Well, if they keep losing, they're not going to make the tournament.
Yeah.
But if they hold
they're
serve,
solidly
all
in the tournament.
Hold serve.
Right. They're solidly in the tournament.
And by hold serve, I mean,
does that mean that they can't play their way out of it? No, it doesn't. Definitely doesn't mean that. I mean, we talked to Clark Kellogg on the show on Friday, and he mentioned this Saturday coming up that they were going to do their CBS kind of mid-season 68-team field on where would you be if the tournament started next Saturday? Where would you be right now as
Indiana
a team?
Was at 8 according to Joe Lenardi's bracketology before this game, and this is going to set them back yet another line, I'm quite certain.
Well, I don't know that it will, as long as they win on Thursday. As long as they beat, or next Saturday, I mean, as long as they beat Iowa, as long as they beat Purdue, I think that it just sucks for us right now because it's 3 losses in a row. It's a terrible feeling. It's been over a week, and we have had no good games out of Indiana. And so if no good play. If they come back and beat Purdue, then, I think they'll still be right there in that eight seed line. But they can definitely still play themselves out of that. There's no question about that.
Billy says, should the team captains be more vocal?
I don't even know who the team captains are. Like, I assuming they're Devontae Green because he's a senior.
Al Durham, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know.
No,
yes.
I think it's Devontae and Al Durham.
Anyone on this team should be more vocal. Like, yes, no question about it.
Hey, Greg Murray. Robert, the Truth Carter's with us. Yeah, he's not flashing that record up there today. What is it now? 15-6, 5-6 in the Big Ten. They go below 500. That's a mark you have to keep an eye on. Like I said, they're in the tournament, no doubt, but they can't play their way out of it. They have to, by hold serve, they have to win at least 50%. But you can't lose at home again. They've already done that.
Right.
They lost to Arkansas.
They've got one road win at Nebraska, and they've lost.
And that's not a very good.
They've lost one home game in the conference that you shouldn't have. But right now you're still holding serve with that. You're right on pace with that. But it doesn't mean just because you're back at home that all of a sudden you're going to beat Purdue and Iowa in the next two games just because you're at home. I will tell you right now, Purdue's going to come in here and think they have a chance to turn their entire season around. Purdue is outside. Clark Kellogg is the one who said Purdue is outside of the tournament right now. But they can definitely play their way into it.
Anybody in the Big Ten can.
Sure they can. There's only two, Nebraska and Northwestern are the only two teams who do not have the possibility of playing their way into the tournament right now. Oh, sure they do. Sure they do.
Minnesota, Wisconsin, both of those teams are bubble teams right now, I think.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. In Wisconsin, if they would have got that win today, now they had an 18-point lead in the first half. They're ahead by 3 right now over Michigan State. So that's turning itself around. But it's difficult to win on the road. And the reason I hate saying that is because now Indiana has 2 home games. And it's not like because they're coming back home, all of a sudden I feel like they'll win these next 2 just because they're at home.
We got to thank our intern, Jimmy Sutton, before I forget. Jimmy Sutton, what did you see today? Did you see anything? You got to get over here to the microphone, or they can't hear you.
I think the scoring droughts are the thing that keep getting to me. We had another
that's a good
scoring
point.
drought tonight, and that's like at least 5 or 6 games in a row.
I think it is 6 games now, Indiana, with a scoring drought of at least 5 minutes. Ironically, the last time they played the Buckeyes, they had the longest scoring drought of the season, over 11 minutes.
Yeah.
They win that game somehow. But these scoring droughts, they're while they're doing that, I was keeping track as always, and you just look and you can see Ohio State going on runs of 7-0 or 9-0. They're not gigantic, but they keep stretching it out, and then you end up with the final score the way it is because they just keep getting away when Indiana's in these scoring droughts, and you cannot continuously do that, which they have, and it's catching up with them.
If you're executing a game plan, that's an offensive game plan, and that is to get yourself to the free throw line. We know that's the fact. Like, they started the year out prior to leading the nation in free throw attempts and free throw makes, which Indiana did for all the way up until mid-January. They led the nation in free throw attempts and free throw makes. And now, they're getting, what they shoot today, 18. Well, actually, that's quite a bit. 14 of 18 from the free throw line today for Indiana. The last game, 9 for 10 in the free throw line. Like, you're not executing a game plan when you have that long you have that few free throw attempts coming out of a game. I mean, they're not. The droughts are happening because they don't know what they're doing offensively, and they don't have a developed identity that they can keep and fall back on and get themselves points in an easy way.
The big question then is, we know what they're doing wrong. A, can it be fixed? Or B, what to do to fix it? C, or D, can it be fixed with this group that they have?
I think they can. I mean, I think they've shown the ability to play well. Now, I think they're going to have to improve their shooting in order to be consistent. I heard Robbie Hummel in the game today say he thought Indiana's ceiling was winning 1 game in the NCAA tournament. I mean, that's just really a silly – any team that goes on a run. There are so many really good teams. There's not very many great teams.
Indiana showed the capabilities of being a team that
if you get to the tournament, there's probably there's probably 8 teams that probably have a legit shot of making the Final Four.
Absolutely.
But there's a whole bunch of teams that have the ability to go on a little bit of a run and get themselves to the Elite 8. It's just silly to make a statement of, I think they're ceiling. So he's saying the best they can possibly do would be to win one game in the NCAA tournament. I'm not just saying it because he's a Purdue guy. I mean, I don't think he thought that statement through. I don't know if they caught him off guard with it or not. Anyone that makes the tournament can make it to the Sweet 16. I mean, let's be for real. Winning 2 games, you get a good matchup and you shoot the ball well. We see how difficult it is for other teams to shoot the ball. Indiana has shown the ability to win games. They've played well enough. They've got the tools to be able to win games. Now, they've not used those tools that well.
Not effectively. Derek thinks they don't seem to be trying as hard as they have in the past few games.
Yeah, I just never fall into that. I mean, I know how difficult it is, and I don't think guys are not trying. Everybody wants to win. I mean, if you've got guys that don't want to win, here's a good example. You see Wisconsin coming out tonight. You see Ohio State after not having Carton available for this game. Kobe King leaves Wisconsin. You know what happens in the first half tonight with Wisconsin? They're up 19 points on Michigan State without their second leading scorer. I mean, if the addition by subtraction thing is not obvious in some of these circumstances, and in Indiana's case, I think even though some players might physically look like they should be on the floor, I think that finding the right lineup right now, finding the right guys that play well together is much more important than worrying about skill levels and who's a scholarship player and who's not and all those things. Finding the right lineup right now and guys who play together would be the key for me.
Thomas asked a very basic question. How do you teach your team to rebound?
Block out.
This
It's
team has
so
done a good
easy.
job rebounding most of the season. Today's an anomaly.
It is. It doesn't usually happen. But how do you teach them?
It went along with their effort.
It's real easy to block out. I mean,
if you put the effort out.
Okay, let me take that back. It's not easy to block out. It's real easy to teach people that the way that you rebound and the way that you dominate the boards is by blocking out. A lot of players. Why is Indiana so good at offensive rebounding? Because most teams don't block out. And when a team blocks out, all 5 guys have to block out. There's so many different moving parts to it that, there's generally just a guy or two that don't.
Dana says she heard that there was a virus going around the team. Joey was sick yesterday. What do you know about that? Unless it's the coronavirus, I know nothing about it.
It's a shooting virus.
Unless they've been to China lately.
It's a shooting virus. Yes, they've had it all season long.
Alan says the week off may help his blood pressure get back down. James Cockrell, how are you, sir?
I understand it.
Tom, yep, they are an absolute mystery to him. You never know which team is going to show up, but they're starting to be more predictable as to which one will show up, but that's not a good sign. It's only been a 2-game swing, but it's the timing of when that is coming now as opposed to December, because now is when you want to see a team that is starting to inch up and starting to gel. We're not seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, we thought they were bipolar in the fact that they had when they either shot the ball well or they didn't shoot the ball well.
Got the whole Helmer crew on
now I think they're tripolar, because once we saw the Penn State effort, like a lot of that was a whole different team than what we had seen before. So they even added another personality to what we have to worry about going into a game. It's not just whether they shoot the ball well or not. Now, unfortunately, we have to worry about effort from time to time.
I keep saying this question is coming up almost every game now. Noah says, why won't they play the kid from Bloomington? I think they're talking about Cooper Bybee from Ellettsville, Edgewood. I know he can shoot. I've seen him.
It's going to be a real easy answer to that today, though, because, and I'll even answer it for Archie Miller today. Indiana shot 7 of 12, shot 58% from the three-point line tonight. Like, shooting was not the issue today. Now, I'm with whoever made that comment 99% of the time, because I agree with you. There's plenty of games when they don't do that. Making 7 3-pointers, I've been saying all year long, in order to be competitive against good teams, you've got to have the ability to make a minimum of 6, and if you're going to compete on the road, you got to be able to make 9 or 10. And Indiana made 7 tonight. That's one of their better efforts, and definitely percentage-wise one of their better efforts. For me, the issue today is the 42 field goal attempts. Now, they had 13 turnovers, so that's a contributor to I mean, how many are they going to have? Let's say 9 at best. They're going to have no less than 9.
Post defense.
So that's only 46 attempts. It's the pace of play. It's getting up and down the court.
How many easy shots did they give up in the paint to Ohio State today? I mean, my
A lot.
gosh. Every time I turn around, it's like they were just making a
But
pass.
what? Okay, we've heard this in preseason press conferences, in post-game press conferences. We've heard Archie Miller talk about we're going to play fast. You and I heard him in Evansville this year talk about we're going to play fast, we're going to get up and down. Who controlled the pace of play today?
Ohio State.
Ohio State. We shot 42 times. They limited our possessions. We had 13 turnovers. That's not atrocious. It's bad. I mean, you want to have less than 10, okay? But that's only 4 more shots. That's only 46 shots.
I think they just got out-hustled.
They allowed Ohio State to dictate the pace of play. C.J. Walker controlled all 9 players on the floor. He controlled his other 4 guys, and he controlled everybody on our team by pace of play. When they wanted to speed it up, they did, and when they wanted us to play slow, they slowed us down.
They absolutely did. Kevin says he's seen more intensely offensive teams at the Hyper. Race Thompson been out for 3 games now.
Yeah, without knowing what it is, I don't know.
No, I'm saying they're really. I don't know how much that's been affected Indiana though, because their problems have not really been what he brings to the table.
Yeah, I mean,
although he's been playing very well.
The only thing I would say about him is he would allow you to play with a lineup that doesn't include Joey Brunk and Deron Davis. And I hope this. Please let me say this out loud. I like Joey Brunk as a player. I think there are some huge benefits he can bring to this team. I don't think it's as a starter, and I don't think it's playing more than 25 minutes a game. I think he's a 15, at most 18-minute per game player that can give you everything he's got and fly up and down the court. He can run hard. He can run fast, but not for 30 minutes. And Indiana is not its fastest when he's out there. I don't think anyone would argue with the fact that Race Thompson and Jerome Hunter will probably get up and down the floor faster than Joey Brunk, definitely Deron Davis. So I just think that the team has to go – I think they've got to play at a different pace in order to be successful. And the more possessions you can get, obviously the better, I would think.
John says that Michigan State's got it within 3 now, so –
yeah. Oh, yeah. No, they had it within 3 with the ball a few minutes ago.
James Cockrell says, saw someone call this a motion offense. If that's true, it's mostly wasted motion. Nothing seems to have any purpose or create spacing. Can you discern?
Hang on a minute. Offense? Somebody called Indiana's.
He said he heard that he heard someone relate this as a motion type offense, which I don't see that.
Well, James, I know you, and I hope you laughed as hard as I'm laughing inside about that comment, because there is nothing motion about this offense.
Yeah,
this is a set play.
What can you discern? What type of offense is it that they're trying to run? Because
it's a pro style offense. It's an offense that you're set up to try to get mismatches, and you're trying to get the ball to a certain area. I shouldn't even say mismatches. You're trying to get the ball to a certain area, so they run all kinds of weaves and movement. And when you see, this is something I will never understand. I played basketball my entire life. I feel like I know quite a bit about the game, but I still learn things all the time, especially as the game develops. But when our guards, specifically Rob Finney and Al Durham, do this all the time, they will pass the ball 5 feet away to Trey Saxon Davis and then run over and get it back from him. And that's the play. They do this 10 times every game. Bob Knight always taught us, like, every pass, every screen, every cut, everything you do has a purpose. Explain the purpose when they're no farther away than me and you, and he passes the ball to him and kind of pauses for a second and runs over and gets it back from him. Nothing in the world, no human in the world can explain to me how that makes any sense offensively.
No, and one of the things that you've talked about so much, and whether it's on the show or when we're doing this post-game show, is how much you guys prepared. It's ad nauseum. I mean, it's almost to where you're sick of it, it sounds like. It doesn't seem like these guys have anything close to that preparation. And I'm not trying to make a coaching comparison here. I'm just looking at what I see on the floor. They're not doing things consistently. They'll do 1 week, they do this correctly, and the next 3 weeks
here's something
don't.
Yeah, here's something that drives me crazy is how many times have you seen like a team go on a run or whatever, and Indiana will call a timeout, and you'll go to that timeout, and you see Fred Hoiberg's good at it because he was in the NBA, but you see Izzo or Krzyzewski or even Calipari, guys like that. When they get to sit over there and draw up a play and design a play and come out of that timeout, it's amazing how often that play scores, okay? Well, you know what I've seen out of Indiana so many times. I think coaches are just doing this now just to mess with them. But Indiana will call that timeout and come out, and the other team will come out in a zone defense. And our players come out of that. It's happened 4 or 5 different games. And our players will come out of that, and they'll be like, well, wait a minute. We just drew up a play to go against – you guys are not allowed to do that. Go back to your old offense. Or defense. We set up a play to go against that. And that's just a small example of you've got to be prepared for every single scenario there is. And that's why, I swear to you, that's why Bob Knight ran the motion offense, and that's why our defense was what it was, because – it's the biggest margin of error. Like there's so many little things that you don't have to remember and don't have to do and don't have to be right in the right spot, and timing is such a big issue with offense. So when Indiana's offense, when the timing of these cuts, when there are cuts or when there are screens, when that timing is screwed up, it really messes up the whole offensive play, because in a motion offense, at any given time, 2 guys are screening and 2 guys are cutting. Always. And then as soon as those guys as soon as the ball goes to that guy, 2 more guys are screening and 2 more guys are cutting. It's constant the whole time. So you have all these opportunities. When Indiana comes off a ball screen and the play doesn't work, it's a holy shit moment. It's a holy crap moment. What do I do? Because we don't have 19 people setting screens. We don't
seem prepared for what if this doesn't work.
This offense is, when we drive the ball, I keep saying we, this Indiana team, when they drive the ball to the wings, downhill, you'll hear coaches say all the time, this guy plays downhill. Downhill means he's going to the rim. Consider downhill, the bottom of the hill is the rim, and that's where you're trying to get to. And when guys are flying downhill, like, it's hard to stop somebody that's going downhill. It's not that hard to stop somebody that's running on the side of the hill, because Indiana seems to always be going not towards the basket. They're going to the corners or to the wings or to wherever, and that's where a lot of our offensive direction is headed to. And that's something I just never understand. How many guys do we see catch the ball, and they don't even – it's not that the post they're not looking into. Like, they're not even – they know where it's supposed to go next, and that's the only place they look. Like, they catch it on the wing, they know there's going to be something else going on, and they're going to throw it to a guy who's coming to the top of the key. They never even look anywhere else. Drives me nuts.
Greg asked, can we learn how to use a pick? Nobody rubbing shoulders.
Apparently not.
Guys, not only they don't pick often, they don't pick well, they're not sharp. It's like
Indiana screening away from the basketball, okay?
And
which I don't.
What's the purpose of that?
Yeah, but ball screens are, in 5 years at Indiana, we set and ran 0 ball screen. Bob Knight was not a ball screen guy. And it was a different time back then and all that, and I kind of get that. And it's gone to ball screening. I don't even mind it anymore. But it can't be your only screening. And Indiana, as a screening team away from the ball, is horrible. They're awful. They slip. Slip means you fake the screen, so you go to set the screen, and before the guy gets to you, you roll to the basket. They fake probably 75% of their screens. They slip screen.
5% of those might work?
Yeah, but it should be you slip screen to catch somebody off guard. So you do it like maybe 5% of the time. Yeah, you set the screen 8 times in a row, and the ninth time I slip the screen and I go to the basket.
Be expecting the screen.
Yeah, but they're not. We slip screen 75% of them. If we set the screen, they'd be surprised. And our screening away from the ball, if you watch it, I watch it really closely all the time. If you watch our screening away from the ball, it's terrible, awful.
No one wants to know, what is Indiana's greatest strength that they're not taking advantage of? Well,
getting the ball down the floor and taking a shot in the first 15 seconds of the shot clock from the 8-foot area.
A good shot, not just a shot, but a good shot.
But once they don't do that, we're not that good at half-court offense. There's just no 2 ways about it. I can't even sugarcoat it. Even pounding it inside. Trace Jackson-Davis with his back to the basket is not great. Joey Brunk, not great with their back to the basket. They're adequate. They're okay, but they're not great. That's not our bread and butter. That's not what shouldn't be what they live off of. The one thing I think they don't do is get up and down the court and play with pace. 42 shots in a game, you're very seldom going to win a Big Ten basketball game only shooting 42 times.
This is kind of back to the substitution and rotation kind of a thing. Doug asking, he doesn't think Archie gives 5 guys enough time to build chemistry in that rotation.
I agree with some of that. I do agree with some of that. I've said all along, when's the last time we see a guy? Okay, so Trace Jackson Davis played 33 minutes tonight. Jerome Hunter played 28. Then we have a bunch of guys at 27, Joey Brunk at 22, and a couple guys at 8 and 9. Like, where are the guys that are playing 34, 35 minutes a game? You know, why do we not have some staples that are on the floor?
See other teams, almost every team.
You see every other team. Caleb Wesson tonight, 35 minutes. C.J. Walker, 35 minutes.
Who's their best players?
Andre Wesson, 31 minutes.
On the floor.
Yeah, I mean, they're on there. Most teams are not 11 deep, and neither is Indiana.
No,
they're not 9 deep. Indiana is 7 deep, and they have the benefit of using 1 or 2 other players for 6 or 7 minutes at a time. Otherwise, there's 7 players that should be on that floor.
Yeah,
That's a great question, and yes, I've thought that all year long. You've got to let guys make some mistakes. I'll live with some of the mistakes, but let them get in a rhythm out there together.
Jared points out if Wisconsin beats Michigan State and they're back up by 10, Illinois will be in sole possession of first place in the Big Ten. And Brad Underwood, also only a third-year coach at Illinois, will have our hands full with that road game. Well, I've been saying that all year.
Illinois is the best team in the league. There isn't any two ways. Michigan State, I don't care if win or lose today, what they do. I don't care what their record is. I'll tell you today, February 1st, Illinois is by far the best team in the league.
They seem a tick deeper.
They have here. Okay,
better.
they've got something no one else has, and that's they've got the Green Mile playing in the middle. You can't get around the dude; he's that big. Then they've got guards who could shoot the ball, and are cocky and insanely aggressive. Okay, and then they've got a couple forwards who know their role, and all they do is screen and rebound. That Georgie guy would make every single team in the league better if he was on their team, and obviously the Green Mile would. But when you look at the Georgie guy, I really think he is the unsung hero of that team. He never worries about stats. He's a left-handed 6'8" guy that just blocks out and rebounds and plays hard and guards the other team's best inside guy. Like Illinois is a team that could go to the Final Four, and Illinois is a team that shooting the ball well could win the national championship.
Jerry the King Lawler's on with us. That's a good joke there. You know Jerry Lawler from the wrestler?
Wrestling?
Yeah, but it's not spelled different, so pardon me, Jerry. I'm just cracking a little joke there. Jerry says, I agree 100%, Todd. It seems like elementary school basketball to pass the ball and immediately run over and get it back from somebody. Yeah, I see that, and I've never understood that, but I'm like, I'm assuming there's a reason, so that's why I've never really mentioned it, because I see it so frequently. I didn't think that, but I've never really.
What was it? I missed it. What did he say? What was the question?
Oh, he was talking about hand the ball off, go back.
Oh yeah.
It just seems like it's elementary basketball.
Here's what you write that off to. You know, like I'm 50 years old. Here's what we write that off to: is that's a younger person. It's the new wave of basketball and the way it's because you see so many different teams doing it. But I sure as heck don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense to me. There's no purpose to it. I've never seen somebody pass the ball over and then run over and get it, and it tricked the other team. Like, everybody knows what you're doing. Here's something that's really interesting to watch, okay? If you can take your eyes off the ball and you can watch the other team, watch Ohio State's a great example, because when they score the basketball, when they turn and run back on defense, they don't hurry, they don't hustle. They jog to an area without even looking to where your man is. You know, it used to be when you get back, it's like find your man, locate your man, everybody talk, and you find out who everybody is, and you get everybody situated with who's guarding who. They don't do that anymore because they know Indiana is running to they know Justin Smith is running to that baseline wing every single time, and his man, Andre Wesson, doesn't look for him, doesn't hustle, doesn't do anything. He jogs leisurely down there to the corner, and he's right in front of Justin Smith because we run to the same spot every single time. It's the offense.
They're going to have to get Norman Dale to go in there and measure everything.
15 feet. 15.
It was Norman Dale's birthday this week. Actually, it was Jim
I
Hackman's
do remember
birthday.
you saying
Angelo
that.
Pizzo joining us as well. Hey, Angie, how you doing, man? But, yeah, they need somebody to understand. These are the same gyms no matter
if
where
he could
they
produce,
go.
He needs to produce something for this team. He needs to produce something for
Indiana's
this
basketball
top.
season.
You produced Hoosiers. We need you to produce something for this Hoosiers team.
They could sure use it.
Gee.
as they move forward now, they're coming back home. You got a rivalry game coming up on Saturday. You got a week to let these 2 losses soak in.
3 in a row losses.
3 losses in a row, but these 2 on the road, you got beat up.
2 eggs you laid, yep.
Now you got to come back to a rival who wants nothing more. This would make
this would be the hump for Purdue. This would be them getting over the hump
and get them back
into the tournament. No question about it. Go on the road, a big win. It would be a quad 1 win. It would be on the road. Here's where you ask me this question. All of the pressure is on Indiana in this game.
Oh, this is an absolute must-win game.
And so it's pretty easy. It's a lot easier to play when you're the team coming in with no pressure on you. Purdue's coming in here with nothing to lose.
Number one, they've lost 3 straight, like you said. It's another home game, but you cannot afford to lose another home game. They're in the tournament right now, but they're not locked.
They're in the tournament. They could easily play their way out of it.
Were to lose again, then that would make it 4 straight. Now you're thinking last year when you get this bad deal came around. So this is a must-win in my mind for Indiana.
Yeah, it is. There's no question. Both of these games in my mind are must-wins. Not from a standpoint of your season would be over, but from the standpoint of getting yourself back on track and having a chance to do well in the tournament. I really feel like these 2 games are that important. Wisconsin's up by 4 with 1:20 to go in the game right now.
And the thing that's blowing my mind, though, is if they were shooting 15%, 20%, we'd know where to point.
You know exactly where to go, yeah.
But they're shooting the ball.
We've been able to point at that a bunch. Like, we've been able to say, hey, they're not shooting the ball. You look at this game.
You lose a game because you didn't hustle, because you gave up too many possessions, because you didn't get enough off. When you're not doing the little things. This is a game, to me, that was a little thing game.
Well,
they got outshot, they got out-hustled.
The game was controlled by Ohio State. Like, the whole pace of play. Listen to me. When you shoot 42 times in a game, Carmel High School might have a chance to beat you. I mean, Indiana put up 59 points. They had 22 at halftime. That 59 is not real because how many baskets did they score in the last 4 minutes? I bet you 48's probably the right number of what they should have ended that game with if it didn't turn into trash basketball at the end. And so you can't win. You let Ohio State, you didn't dictate anything. Coaches say that all the time. You know, you got to dictate the pace of play. You got to dictate how the aggressiveness. You got to come out and smack them in the mouth. And none of that happened in this game. Like, there's just no 2 ways about it. You can't win a game on the road with 42 field goal attempts.
Nope. We're back on Monday. Don't forget, Indiana Sports Beat with Coy Leary coming to you live at 9 a.m. Don't forget, you can find us on IndianaSportsBeat.com, any place you find a podcast, or if you're in an area where we're on the radio, of course, you can find us there. We got to thank Chris Martin. Got to thank Nathan Finney, the entire Finney Hospitality Group here at Yogi's. For taking care of us.
Place was packed today.
Best Beer Incorporated of Bloomington. Have yourself a nice ice cold Budweiser or Bud Light if you're out and about. And, of course, our friend Henry Nethery from Remax Acclaimed Properties. He didn't give me his cell phone number, so I'm going to give you his office number again, 812-332-3001. Give him a call if you're looking for a place in the Bloomington area. We appreciate Henry and Remax Acclaimed Properties. But, man, we've got a week off before after the game is back. But, of course, we'll be back on Monday. Don Fisher will join us on the Daily Show. And then next week we'll have guests throughout the week as Indiana prepares to take on the Boilermakers with a week off. So we've got a week to talk about this. And I guess I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same way. I was just getting ready to say, it's usually such a fun week. Like, you look forward to that big rivalry game and all that. And honestly, it's going to be an Alka-Seltzer and Tums night every night. Like, just trying to not have my stomach be upset, worrying about how they're going to play.
Abby Freeman, thanks for joining us. Well, we'll see your Abby is the lady that had the little kid that you took his picture with at the game. Yep. We'll see them at the Purdue game, so they're coming up. So we'll look forward to that. Thank you again, everybody. We appreciate you tuning in to Indiana Sports Beat with Coy Leary here for After the Game with Todd Leary, as we're here with you each and every game here at Yogi's, live from Yogi's for the post-game show, brought to you by Best Beer. But until Monday morning when we're back on the radio, that's going to do us for them. For Todd Leary, I'm Jim Coyle, and I will see you on the radio.
Chaos in the Big East today. Meantime, Ole Miss, LSU.